talk about phonological and phonemic awareness, because a lot of times it's what we really get confused, a lot of people do. They are different, and that's what we're gonna be learning about today, and how we can help the kids in the classroom learn how to differentiate them. So today, we will identify components of phonological and phonemic awareness. We're gonna discuss why they're both important, and we're gonna determine methods to assess, decide, and guide the students to success using phonological and phonemic awareness. And I'm gonna kind of show you too what I was doing with some of the kids that I was pulling out and doing those tests on them, because what I was doing was all phonological and phonemic awareness too. So, what are your present understandings of phonological awareness? We can write it down, you can talk about it, it's up to you what you want to do. But with your groups, I'm just going to give you about 3 to 5 minutes to discuss what is phonological awareness and what is phonemic awareness. What your understandings are, then what you remember of it. And it's totally okay if you're like, I don't even remember, or if you get confused, but just kind of talk with your groups about what you think about it. And then we'll share with each other and share out. Okay?
Oh,
You can share with each
paper,
other.
or are we talking?
You can talk about it, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
phonemic
Letters and one is
sounds.
right?
Phonemic is sounds.
Understanding the
And then
sounds.
phonological.
And then putting it
is
together.
letters. Yeah.
Okay.
I concur.
But that's about all
Phonemic
that's about all I call.
Rhyming,
It's okay,
alliteration,
I don't want to get your
rhyming and
Oh.
alliteration.
I hear a lot of really good things, alliterations, rhyming,
Rhyming.
sounds, letters, and that's pretty much what it is. So when we talk about phonological awareness, I really liked this picture because it kind of shows you phonological awareness is the whole big category, right? So it's words and sentences, syllables, onset rhymes, it's the alliteration and rhyming. It's all about sounds. We're not talking about letters, we're only talking about sounds. And phonemic awareness is just its own little raindrop under phonological awareness. So when we're talking about phonemic awareness, we're still talking about sounds. We're talking about putting words in isolation, isolating them, segmenting words, blending it and putting it together, and most importantly, adding, deleting, and substituting words, and all of this without the actual words in front of them, but vocalizing it and saying it, having them hear it. So why do you think it would be so important for kids to know this?
It's,
What do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
it's like the basis.
The basis
of
of reading? What do you guys think? Why do you think it would be important to teach this? I mean,
Separate
kindergarten
words
gets the
apart.
basics,
So like when they're
right?
reading, they could become more like fluent.
I mean, you
readers.
can't put a word together unless you know the sounds of the letters.
So we need to know the sounds to put them together, to make the words. I like what you said, what did you say?
Be more fluent when they're reading because they can catch, they have the habit of like log and
Yes.
hog, and they won't have to sound out all the time, sound it out all the
They
time.
already know the
They-
og.
They know the og, and they won't have to say hog.
Exactly. And so some of the things that we said was, and a lot of the stuff that I got was actually from our Fontes and Pinnell books. They said the students may be able to speak and understand the language, but that doesn't mean that they can automatically identify the sound. So just because they can speak it and talk to you, and you guys know this, that doesn't mean that they can segment it, tell you letter sounds, or any of that. One of the really confusing things is that there's 26 letters in the alphabet, but they make 44 phonemes, 44 different sounds. And then on top of that, they don't always sound the same. So like CH, we're always like ch, ch, but it can make the sound ch in chair, it can make the k in Christmas, and it can even make the sh in machine. So it gets really confusing for kids. So it's really important that we are aware of that when we're teaching. Phonological awareness improves reading and spelling when they're able to sound out those words. And as students learn the relationships between speech sounds and the letters in written words, then, like we said, it's the whole basis to reading and writing. And I liked this quote. So the most common source of reading difficulties is poor phonemic awareness. So that's one of the things we want to do is, if your reader's really struggling, they're really low readers, it could could be that they just don't have the skills in phonemic and phonological awareness. You know, so we wanna make sure that, we can make the right decisions when it comes to them. So where to start? So we can assess them. So I put down a bunch of different assessments here. So the optional assessments from Fontes and Pinnell was the first one I picked out because we already use Fontes and Pinnell. So inside your kits, you have the assessment forms, and I marked off, there's an initial sounds, right, an initial sounds test. So you've got it right there. They even have it online if you need to make copies, right? So this goes with our Fontes and Pinnell, what we do already. I marked off syllables. Can the child tell you syllables, right? And you'll notice, they're not words, they're pictures, right? So we're still, again, phonological awareness, we're not talking about the letters and making the words, we're talking about the sounds. And so these are a really good resource to use. Let me see. I don't know, I can't still get into my reading A to Z, but you guys can. And they have these phonological awareness assessments. There's a whole bunch of really good ones on here too, that you can just go in and print. You've got your rhyme, your onset rhyme, your syllable awareness. We have our initial sounds, and they have 3 of them, so you can do like beginning, middle, end, if you'd like to. We have the final sounds, and we have medial sounds. And then we have just plain old phonemes, blending, segmenting, manipulating. And I will say, most of the kids that I've tested, the medial sounds is where they're struggling. You know, they're like, they've got the beginning, they've got the end, they're struggling with that medial sound. So if you think, oh, my kid's struggling, they're really low readers, this is something you can assess them on, and it's a quick fix. You know, just gotta teach them explicitly. Let me go back, sorry. Assessments from Flint Cooter. So this is a book that I have and one that I used a lot. And so this one, same thing. You've got your alphabetic assessments. And so this is all, it's a lot of words, but it's you saying the words. It has nothing to do with the kids reading them.
Emily Lopez to the front office. Emily to the front office. Uriah Garcia to the front office. Uriah Garcia to the front office.
So like this one, all I tested for was beginning, middle, end sounds. There were 5 words. I said the word, and whatever they recall, I write down. And then you record how many of each one that they got. And with this too, there's like beginning, middle, ends. And I have this resource, but if you want to borrow it at any time, I can lend it out. Another thing I put on here was, map testing. I put it on there because it does give you some good data, some good feedback that you can look through, and that's something that we already do. Heggerty Phonological Awareness Assessments. So Heggerty is a program, a phonics program and phonological awareness program, like all in one. It's a really cool program, and I found this resource, and I found it late, but I was like, this is cool. I know they're maybe thinking about adding it into our curriculum next year. And so they have just all of the assessments.
Hylas right to the front office. Hylas right to the front
So
office.
you have your beginning, middle, and end of the year. And you have your little assessment, just like that. And I was like, oh, well, I tried this with 2 kids, because I was like, this is nice. And it's all in one. Like, no, this is not in our curriculum, but it's something that you could use, because it's really just getting data for yourself, is really all it is. And then of course, classroom observations, right? When you're working in small group, which kid is raising their hand every time and giving you wrong answers, right? Or which kid is not answering, or just looking at others and answering because that's what they're saying, right? So your classroom observations also are a way to easily assess. So then what then? So we look at our data. And all of these tests, all of these assessments, they tell you how many the student has to get to be able to be emergent, proficient, or what is the other one? Emergent, proficient. Yeah, something like that. And so, you know, it gives you the baseline depending on which one you're using. And so what you do then is you look at that data, right? You look at it, you see where are they struggling the most, where are they struggling in emergent. So you think, where are the gaps? Where do they score low or emergent? I liked this quote. It said, phonological awareness instruction is an important component, but only a component for teaching beginning readers. So we recommend that it be included in early intervention instruction for children who show signs of confusion. So it's really important, if you've got your struggling reader, see where that struggle first is. And so what you can look at next is there's like a continuum of where, like, the way that you teach, okay? Because you want to make sure you're teaching systematically and explicitly, okay? So we're not going to go over everything here, but word awareness, okay? That's the number one. Can they track the words as they're reading? Words in a sentence. Some kids are still confusing. I'm with first graders, working with first graders. Some of them are still confusing a letter from a sound or a letter from a word. So we need to make sure, do they even have the word awareness skill? Once they do, then you get to rhyme and alliteration. So a lot of times that's why you're using poetry, because poetry has a lot of rhyming in it, and they become familiar with rhymes. Syllables, counting, tapping, blending, segmenting them. Onset rhyme, the first letter, like tan, t is your onset, and is your rhyme, right? Then we go into phoneme awareness, where we're gonna start blending, segmenting, and manipulating, especially those words. And a lot of the second graders that I'm working with, they're really good at that manipulation, so you all have done a good job of that. But the most important thing is that you're teaching it in a logical way, and you're teaching it direct and focused. And we're gonna go over some examples really quick of how you can apply this into your classrooms, because it's in your curriculum, right? Phonological awareness is in your curriculum, so it's already embedded, right? But when we do it direct and focused, we want it quick, right? And we want it to be explicit, where they are just, they're being taught in a short way and in an instructional way, that they are getting it immediately. We're not stopping and talking about other things. So we're gonna quickly take a look at our TEKS. I printed them out, just one for each group. You can try them if you want.
No. I'm like, I'm saving this.
So what I want you to really notice about these TEKS,
Sickness.
so the way I printed this out, I got it from TEKS resource, and they're vertically aligned. So you have your kindergarten, first grade, and your second grade. And I also have it printed with the specificities, so that you can see, and it starts, we're gonna start right down here. Okay, we're gonna skip this top part. So that we can see exactly what they should have learned and what they will learn. So if you turn it to the back, we already see it says, demonstrate phonological awareness, right? And just looking at this first page, just take a look at it, talk with your group, what do you notice?
All the same.
It is all the same, right?
It's all the same.
It's talking about what it is.
Separating.
It gives you the vocabulary. Now turn the page. Okay, so now we see a little bit of a change. It's still phonological awareness, and we're talking about rhyming words. The thing to note about rhyming words is it's, yes, and it's so easy to hear rhyme, or not so easy, but it's easier for children to identify a rhyming word when you say them, but can you produce it back? That's a harder skill, right? And that's something that I noticed a lot of the kids are having trouble with too, is producing those rhyming words. So I'm glad you noticed that. So in kinder, they just identify. By first grade, we need to start producing. Go ahead and turn the page. What do you see on the next one? What do you notice? Is there anything different there?
Kinder has a lot.
Kinder does have a lot more. And if you'll notice on there, on kinder, it already says manipulating or changing the onset. So in kinder, they're already manipulating those words.
That.
Exactly, and using those rhymes and onsets. If you'll turn the page. And I'll just give you guys like 3 minutes to kind of look over, find the similarities, find the differences. See what they should have already known. Also,
That it like saw every area.
I'll give you guys like 3 minutes.
So I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
It looks
I was thinking
Hang on 1 second.
the T-flat.